we go. And good morning. Welcome to the Old School, a podcast about the American education system. It's idiosyncrasies, its traits, its quirks, its problems, and solutions, insofar as we know the solutions. Good morning, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Good morning, or afternoon, I should say.
Afternoon, yes.
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. Is it bad of me to ignore my family and watch football all weekend?
You've been doing it for like 20 years. What am I going to notice?
See, the thing is, though, with it was just the wife, it's an easier proposition to make. You're only dealing with one person. But then it's the kid, and even the kid in the early years, she doesn't care what you're doing. She's just hanging out. But now, kids got opinions. Kids have thoughts. This kid has demands on my time that had previously heretofore been dedicated to watching football. Okay. Now, watching football and interrupting me watching football is not nearly an egregious an offense as if they had interrupted me watching baseball. That said, so I gotta be me. I gotta be my own man.
I'm not even going to say anything about baseball and the idea of being interrupted. You're interrupting something like silence, basically, with something that's not silence. I don't know, that's so bad.
It's a meditative sport.
Well, I was thinking you were going to say that she decided to root for somebody other than the Ravens, because I know they're on today. And I did notice that they're on TV, and our podcast is at 3, so we'll be promptly done before kickoff.
Certainly. One would hope.
Really? Particularly the way we started this. No, I wouldn't take it too seriously. It's a long-term negotiation.
I see.
You've done better than most of us, I will say, on that kind of thing.
It could be that sports becomes part of the soundtrack of her life.
Okay, you believe that?
Yes.
She's going to be.
That's what I'm going to go with.
She studies everything Egyptian, and so I think I would bet against at least the football and baseball thing, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
It hasn't been known to happen.
Yes.
And I think Egyptologists are more represented than you might think as baseball fans. There's something about the contemplative nature of Egyptology to the fandom of baseball.
Probably one of the dumber things you've ever said.
And that's saying something.
Yeah, it's just it stands to reason that they would like baseball.
Well, so we'll go ahead and table that particular problem, and we go towards another problem. Now, you have children. I've seen a couple of them, so I know they exist. Did they take a lot of AP courses?
Well, I have 3 children, and you know that. My daughter is a little bit young, but she's going into the 9th grade, so she'll probably be taking AP Physics as a 9th grader and AP Calculus. She is a bourgeois, But yes, my boys have taken their share to the point where I'm saving about a year of college tuition from each of them.
But that then brings up the question, and that has to do with the reason why anything is interjected into the school system. And that is, well, ideally, one of the first questions is, how does this help in the mission of a high school? But it would seem to be, and I do understand that I'm speaking as an AP teacher, but it does make you wonder, what is the purpose of AP outside of the framework of what a high school is supposed to be doing?
Oh, I think you know that answer. It's a subtle, not so subtle attempt to track students. Mm-hmm. And so we have, in quotation marks, the AP track, the advanced track, but really that starts in the freshmen. So it's not like somebody is just taking AP Physics and regular, in quotes, classes right. The rest of the time. So it's really a school within a school has been effectively achieved, but they can't call it tracking because it's AP or dual. But particularly AP has that. Look at the students you have now. They're the top students in the class, and they've been there since probably 5th grade. On that track.
But I do wonder sometimes how well we are serving them by the AP curriculum. Could a school be a good school, maybe even a great school, without AP classes? let's say they had honors. Let's just call it something as generic as, say, honors. Is it possible that you could have a school that was just as productive, that was just as impressive, absent of an AP class?
So would you argue that, imagine the other 3 or 4 really good schools in your district continued with AP, but your school, in its wisdom, decided to drop AP? There would be some repercussions, particularly as far as getting into colleges. And I don't know how long that would last, but I think you've established it, so you can't really put the genie in the bottle.
Well, I mean, I think definitely if you're talking about like a single high school amongst a bunch of others within a particular district, I don't think that a single high school would be able to have the chutzpah to be able, or even the power to be able to say, we're not going to do AP classes anymore.
Right. It's a district thing.
Yes.
But you're talking philosophically, can the education be as good?
Right.
Yeah, I would. To me, it's just class. I mean, it's a high school teacher who does have to create a syllabus that's been approved by the college board.
Right.
But how many of those syllabi have not been approved? I mean, their approval rate's pretty high.
Right. Well, and it helps the fact that they basically, well, there's two things they do, the college board does, that kind of circumvents this notion that everybody's syllabus is being thoroughly checked and measured and whatever the case may be. One is that they provide sample syllabi,
right?
And you can just point, click, save, and submit.
Plagiarize.
Basically. I mean, and they're inviting you to do it. Here are a couple of examples from which you could choose.
Okay.
The other idea that they do and they allow is for you to copy the syllabus of a teacher who's already had their syllabus approved. Mm-hmm. And this works this is considered kosher because if you have 2 teachers teaching the same subject on the same campus, then for the sake of everyone being on the same page, wouldn't it be great if they both had the same syllabi? And so they allow that to happen. Now, initially, the whole purpose for the AP audit was that there was a bunch of people that were teaching AP courses. Kids were making like 100 on the course and then making a 2 on the AP exam, which is for the uninitiated, a failing grade. And so there was a feeling by the college board that that's something that they had to try to mitigate. Okay. And it seems like from the school point of view, that the introduction of AP courses is not just a question of tracking, it's also a question of money and parents looking to try to save money going into college. Not a capricious concern, by the way. I just wonder philosophically, does it make sense? Is it for the betterment of the student that we have these kind of courses?
Well, let me ask a snarky question.
Go for it.
The benefit, on the face of it, to taking a lot of AP classes is that it weights your GPA for those classes. So you're getting a higher GPA. Yes. If you have interest in being in the top 10% or 8%, you can't without a substantial number of AP courses.
Right.
So imagine that were not the case. Or imagine, let's just flip it around and say that there was no weighting on AP or dual enrollment, same as every class.
Right.
Would students enroll in AP classes? They are, it's the same content. They're difficult courses now, but they're fighting against students or competing who are taking less rigorous regular courses. What direction will the students go in that case?
Well, it's hard to imagine. I would imagine that kids would probably still take the course, or at least the majority of them would. Holy cow.
That was you, right?
That was me.
Okay.
So, but I think a majority of the students would probably still take it because I think what trumps the idea of the GPA is the idea of college credit garnered. And so if that component is still there, I think perhaps kids still take it. I think you still got a bigger problem though with the GPA thing, because what the AP has done is that it has created a greater disparity between AP and honors, or AP and regular, or AP and God knows what else, dual, what have you. And so you've created a more stratified system in which kids fall into, whether they want to or not. and with that comes its own problems.
Well, you mentioned dual enrollment, and that is where students are simultaneously enrolled, usually at a community college and their high school, taught by a college professor or someone on campus who happens to have a master's degree who can get a little extra pay and do both.
Sure.
The word on the street is that AP is significantly more rigorous than dual enrollment.
Yes.
Your course is more rigorous than something that they take at the community college as a freshman.
Right.
So many schools have recognized that, many districts, and have a weighting maybe 1.25 for dual and another weighting maybe 1.5, whatever it is, for AP, and one for everything else.
Right.
But a lot of schools and districts have the same weighting for AP and dual.
Yes.
And so it's really taking, I mean, there's a huge pressure. That was at a school where we both taught, where people are signing up for dual in droves because it was easier and they padded their GPA and they got college credit.
Right.
And so AP suffered. So there's another, I guess, competition in play. Is that still the case, or has your school seen the light and have different weighting for dual and AP?
Actually, they did have different weightings, but now they have started to go more towards, as it relates to dual and AP having the same weighting, is because it's this, I guess it's the same kind of concept in their mind. They think that these are both college classes that are being taken. But as you stated, you talk to the average 10th grader about which class they want to go into. Do they want to go into dual U.S. history, or do they want to go into AP U.S. history? And the vast, and there's I was about to say a vast majority, not a vast majority, but certainly there is a sizable group of folks who think that the dual is easier, ergo, I'm going to go take the dual.
It's all about their score. And in high schools these days, it's not like you get an A and you max out at 4 points. They count the percentage and half a percentage. Maybe you get a 99 or a 97. Those things matter.
Yes.
So there would be a pressure to take whatever is going to help you get the higher actual percentage grade in the course, which is dual.
Right. But in the backdrop of all this stuff lies my initial problem. Because we just spent the last 5 minutes, riveting as it was, talking about how students are gaming a system, that the high schools are gaming kind of this tiered scaffolding kind of setup where kids go to one or the other. And lost in all this discussion is learning U.S. history. And so I want, of course, I don't think a public school could ever get away with doing this. I think it would have to be something like a private school or some sort of charter school that decides to do something along those lines. And that is the idea of getting rid of all AP classes, maybe in lieu of AP classes, having something like honors.
Well, let's put on our administrator hat now. There's a ranking by the U.S. News and World Report.
Okay.
Probably Newsweek and others. And Newsweek has one also. It's based to a large extent on the number of advanced courses, specifically AP courses, that not only they offer, but are taken.
Right.
Has nothing to do with how many students pass the test or even the test. They can not even take the test, but they need to be enrolled.
Right.
So that's a big deal, from the school and the district particularly.
And that's why I don't really remember what it was like, say, 20 years ago. But, AP courses are open enrollment. Anybody can sign up for an AP course. And part of the reason for that is when Newsweek and others, U.S. News and World Report, began to make how many seats are filled in an AP class as some sort of measure of the school itself. Right. Which doesn't make any sense because it's nothing to do with education. It has nothing to do with what the kids are doing. Well, as you said, they don't count what the kids do on the AP exam, or rather, even if they take it.
It would be better. Maybe they've moved to this now, is actually look at the pass rate. And we need to research that and find out, but that would be a better metric, I think.
Sure.
including the number of seats. I mean, I think that is relevant, but the pass rate would matter too.
Not so much the amount of people in seats, but how many people took the test in conjunction with how many people did well on the test or what have you. That could be an element of it. The dual credit thing, I don't, and this is part of a larger, again, another larger problem that we're talking about, and that is the idea about how school sets up or how high school sets up, the different subjects and what have you. But I remember when college dual credit courses first came into high school, I made the observation it was a little bit like the money changers in the temple. I didn't understand the purpose of having such a blatant kind of usurpation of high school funds for the purposes of college funds. It just didn't seem like it was serving the interests of what we were supposed to do in high school.
Have you taught dual enrollment?
I have taught it a couple of times. Yes, it was usually one-offs because I may have mentioned this before. As department chair, when I'm making up a schedule, oftentimes there's that one course that I can't get filled, and so I will do the course, and I'll teach whatever is out there that needs to be taught. But typically, we have a very fine U.S. history teacher that does it for us at my school. But again. What is the purpose of learning U.S. history? What is the purpose of learning biology? What's the purpose of learning physics? And part of the kind of the larger argument that we have spoken of in the past is that it has to be, if it's going to be authentic, if the students are going to have a long-term benefit, it's got to be something more than getting into a school, establishing a GPA, or something to do occupational wise. It has to be something different than that.
The perspective of a student would have to do with, we need to jump ahead to being in college, particularly for something like English, where if they pass, maybe get a 4 out of 5 on the English, what literature or English AP exam, they would not have to take freshman or in some cases sophomore English, which does matter. It's not as much about the parent paying, but I think that what I saw initially, because I was alarmed when AP and dual came out too. I was thinking there's a benefit to taking these courses when you're a freshman in college on campus from a professor, not an adjunct person, God bless them, but somebody who's an adjunct at a community college is different than a full on or a professor at the university. So they're missing out to some extent, not only on the experience of the professor, but potentially just the experience in the class. And it's more than gaming the system. It's kind of shutting down. Imagine you're never going to read another novel throughout college because you managed to, get past that, never to return, in high school as a junior often.
Mm-hmm. Does that make a better person? Are you doing something to further the cause of literacy by making these kids, or maybe compelling these kids to do all this stuff in a span of a couple of years in high school so that they never have to do it again? Is there a benefit to stretching this out more? Is there a benefit for where, these kids should be reading, even if it has nothing to do with what it is that they're going to be studying? Let's say they're a mathematician. Let's say they're a scientist. Do they not gain something by reading Faust? Do they not gain something by reading, Proust? I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that there's not a more complete, well-rounded way of training people. And the training, though, can't really take place in high school. I mean, I think the high school is meant for something different.
Well, an AP course in literature, there's really not a core reading list.
Right.
They're learning how to write an essay and analyze any piece of literature, and they can refer to the 1 or 2 things they happen to read that year. But transition to, let's say, U.S. history for fun.
Fun, sure.
If a lot of people pass the U.S. history course. I'm not saying the AP test is easy.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Yeah, but actually, it's supposed to. The word on the street is there's a lot of material and a lot of studying involved to do well. But should they get a 3 or a 4 or a 5, are they're not taking your course in college? Mm-hmm. So maybe speak to that. What's your impression of that? I know you're a great teacher in high school, but would you like them to have that college experience?
It's more than just that, but I think, to suggest that 1 year of U.S. history and you've got it all, to suggest that something cannot be learned more by somebody who has maybe a greater in-depth command of various things. I mean, you could take, for example, so there's 2 AP US history teachers on my campus. I think a student who were to take both of those teachers would, one, really know US history, but also get really different qualities from both folks. And so I think in the same way, as good as I think I am in US history, and by the way, it should be said, I'm pretty good at US history, but I can't help but think that they're going to get at the very least, a different kind of education, a different kind of emphasis in a US history class on a college campus. And so to me, the idea of taking classes so you never have to take the subject again seems to me on its face anti-intellectual.
So maybe we need to say a few good things about AP, just to round things out. We've gone on record saying that we want school to be relatively more challenging for students than less. Yes. And the fact that there is a summative assessment that's standardized, meaning it's a national test, everybody takes the same test, it puts a little bit of pressure on students to work throughout the year. And beyond the tests that you give. And so there is a standard, and it's a high standard. So overall, is the school better off, with that, even though it's for 10 or maybe 20% of the student body?
I think what I like about teaching AP is based on something that's more a product that AP is in high schools and not necessarily about AP in and of itself. So what has happened we just mentioned a few minutes ago, what you have is you have a large stratification of levels between quote unquote on level or regular US history, dual US history, and then AP US history. And as those gaps have widened over the years, and they have widened, especially, when you also factor in, special ed and all that, what I find with AP is that it allows me to do more than I could perhaps in another kind of class. So in that sense, I like AP because it allows me to do that. And it's wanting in other courses.
But they've summarily removed or self-selected what we used to call sweat hogs, the students who are really not necessarily the ones that you want to be teaching the nuances of U.S. or world history, are not in there. So there's something to that too. I mean, as a teacher, you probably don't want to teach on level if you don't have to. You'd be happier teaching. When's the last time you taught an on-level course?
Oh, a couple of years ago, because like I said, I mean, I because of my position, I sometimes will pick up whatever extra section of anything that we have to do. And so I've done on several occasions, I've done online world history, not online, on level world history. On-level. Yeah. And so that's probably the regular level class I've probably taught most often, say in the last 8 years.
Okay.
But primarily I teach AP US history, but I have taught on level classes as well.
Okay. There's something that high school students do in their senior year, and this might relate to our topic. But imagine a student who has already been accepted or turned in their application. So everything is really, to them, it's done.
Right.
The grades are in, nothing else counts, unless they're trying to be valedictorian or something crazy like that.
Right.
So they promptly, after the fall semester of their senior year, withdraw from the AP course and enroll in an on-level course. And this is not a small thing. Lots of students do it probably at your school, just by the nature of it, because it takes some pressure off. They're not going to have the type of workload for that last semester. Is that something you've seen a lot?
Not just that, but I think the more problematic trend is loading up on years 1 through 3, so you can have 3 periods off on your senior year.
Okay.
So you stroll in at 9:30, or you leave at 1. Kids walk by your room. Say, Mr. Miller, going home. Yes, bastards. I'm going to go home. And so, so that trend too is based on the same idea. We create a system where we say it's okay to throttle back. And I just don't know if long-term that serves those folks very well. How many stories have you heard about kids that either had a crap schedule at the last semester of their high school career, or had 2 or 3 classes off the last year of their high school career, and then tried to gear it back up the first year of college? That's not an easy thing to do. We're seeing it now with kids that have been staying at home, sitting in their pajamas for the last year. And now all of a sudden they got to come into a school building and act like a civilized human being, So we see the damage that this causes.
Well, you talked to me a little offline about inviting a counselor, someone who actually knows this stuff. I mean, we're throwing around numbers, saying a lot of students leave the AP to go online.
Right.
They're the ones who register them in mass and can attest to that. And probably a lot of the things, it's not just at the level of fact check, but I'd like to see what the philosophy is, from their standpoint, because a counselor is not just somebody who builds students' schedules. They actually have a giving counsel role, and particularly somebody who has something to do with college preparation. What are the colleges looking for? I think we should do that. Maybe invite someone, and I'd like to follow up with this. We've had opinions on this that have pretty much stayed the same. At least mine has. I think yours has.
Right.
On this topic. So we really haven't grown because we've seen it and said, okay, this is what we're looking at. But at the same time, you're in the belly of the beast. You're teaching AP.
Right.
So what do you think? Shall we just invite somebody? They'll probably turn us down, but
they could. But as it happens, I happen to know somebody who I think might be a good addition to the conversation. So I'll reach out to him and see what he thinks. And perhaps maybe the next time we're all together, we shall have a distinguished member of the counseling profession.
I'm worried because usually we say this and nobody shows. I'd be willing to do a side wager on this. The person will probably fake an injury or something at the last minute. Just so you know where I stand on this, but I'd be excited about it.
I think we need to keep the no-shows just the elementary school teachers. I think if we branch it out more, the people are going to start wondering, do we really even know people? Yeah. I think we're risking damaging what little dignity and reputation we might have. So
that's true. We've had 3 guests, and 3 guests in our 30 odd episodes, and we've been teasing guests,
yes.
for weeks on end. Yeah. Wait till next week.
Yes.
We'll be here.
And every time we have a guest, those are some of our highest rated podcasts. No one wants to hear us.
I've noticed that too. It's pretty stark.
All right. Well, let's see if we can swindle a counselor into our little operation here. Until then, the Ravens are playing. We must adjourn. Kickoff is probably nigh upon us.
We should take another 5 or 10 minutes and really get into that topic a little bit more.
Let's see. I think let's keep it fresh. Let's wait till next time.
Okay. We'll go with that. But
the Ravens are playing today.
Somehow I'll die a happy man if I know who the Ravens are playing. I don't.
They're playing the hated Steelers.
The Steelers were gold. They're not as dangerous. They were struggling a week ago. They had a bad loss to Cincinnati, I believe.
Yes.
So but you're talking about, it's still the Steelers.
Yeah. Still defeating the Steelers. It doesn't matter whether they're good or bad. It still feels good.
Well, I'm pulling for you here, Miller.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Well, in that's the case, then I will say adieu, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Auf Wiedersehen, auf Wiederhören, Herr Miller.